Hi guys, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to do a tutorial on how I do vector line art and coloring in Adobe Illustrator. My personal method doesn't involve expanding the lines, which other tutorials will show you. That's because I prefer to keep my entire illustration vector rather than removing the vector element. Let's just get into the tutorial. The first thing you want to do is make sure you have the stroke window and the gradient window up. If you don't have that, you can just go to Window at the top here and then tick off Gradient and what's the other one? Stroke. To begin with, we're going to be using the pen tool. You can just click P on your keyboard, or you can go to the pen tool on the left there and click it. You might find that sometimes when you click it, it actually has a plus or a minus next to it. That's because it's automatically selecting one of these, probably because it was the last thing that you used. You can just right click on that button and then select the pen tool directly. Now we're going to start using the pen tool. I need to make sure that the layer Oops, what am I doing? I'm hiding the layer. I need to make sure that the layer isn't locked. So just go to your layer panels on the right, which again, if it's missing, you just go to Windows and select Layers. So we go to our Layers panel and we make sure that we haven't locked the layer, otherwise we can't use it. I can't remember which layer I'm going to use, so I'll just unlock all of them. Make sure you have your illustration ready. You can always just go to File, Open, and open up your illustration. Once you have that, the illustration will have a layer of its own. This document was already done previously with another illustration, as you can see here, which is why it has so many layers. But let's just assume that your one only has one layer, which is the illustration layer. My recommendation is to go down here and add another layer. And I'm going to rename this one and make it Line Art. As for everything else, I'm going to make sure it is locked so I don't accidentally draw on it. And make sure the layer you are going to draw on is unlocked. Let's start with the pen tool. I'm going to zoom in a little bit by pressing Control and plus. You can press Command and plus if you are on a Mac. And what I want to do is make sure I add an anchor point in each of these curved areas. So if I just press Control and click on any area of the page, I've broken this line now. If I then select the Direction Selection tool and click on it, you'll see, if I just zoom in, you'll see that the anchor points are right here, here, and up here. But what it's missing are handles. So the second thing we need to make sure to do is wherever there are anchor points, we need to make sure that we create the handles that go with it. If we go back to the pen tool, I'll show you how to make an anchor point with a handle. So this time when I click down, I am not going to lift up. Instead, I'm going to drag. You see that? It pulls out the handles. So if I then go to another section and click and drag and create another handle, this time I'm going to press Control and click out of the page. And I'm going to go back up here to the Direct Selection tool and click on an anchor point. So now we have the handles to play with. I'm just going to drag this one out and you can see that the handle moves the line about and it helps create curved lines, which is exactly what we're going to need when we're dealing with curved areas of the artwork. The other thing you want to note is that you can break the anchor point as well. I'm going to select P and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by breaking the anchor point. This time I'm going to click and drag again, click and drag, and I'm going to click and drag on the first point I had initially created to complete a somewhat odd looking circle. This time I'm going to go back to the Direct Selection tool. And I'm not just going to click and drag a handle, instead I'm going to click Alt before clicking on it. So I'm pressing down Alt and I'm going to click and drag on a handle and you can see it has broken that line so that it's no longer a curve. The other thing I should mention is that if you do forget how to break the line, you can just go back to the pen tool, right click and go down to the anchor point tool. Once you click on that, you can just go ahead and break the line without having to press on Shift. Let's go back to the pen tool and zoom out by pressing Ctrl and 0, and then undo by pressing Ctrl and Z, and that will take us right back to the beginning. Now we're going to begin inking the artwork. Select your pen tool, zoom in, Ctrl plus or Command plus, and I'm going to begin down here. What I'm going to do is click and drag in every area where I think there's going to be a slight curve. So I might add one here and here, and I'm going to keep going until I come to a place where I can end the line, and this is where I want to end the first line. I'm going to press Ctrl and click outside. The other thing you might have noticed is one of these doesn't have an anchor point. Sometimes my computer doesn't read what I'm doing. It's very old and very slow, and as you can see here, it didn't add the anchor points in, but that's okay because I can just go here, select the anchor point tool, and go here and click and drag to add those anchor points. Make sure that your direct selection tool is selected, and this time we are going to go and alter the lines to make sure they fit with the pencil markings underneath it. That's something that I didn't realize was happening because I never pay attention, is if I move this line here, can you see that the pencil work underneath suddenly appears, and then if I move it back it disappears? That's because I have a fill on, and that is creating that white. I'm going to click on the fill and remove it, and now you can see that there is no white fill blocking that pencil path. Let's start altering the path. I'm going to make sure my direct selection tool is selected. I'm going to go ahead and click on a point just so I can see its anchor points, and I'm going to move the anchors until I can get the line that I want. And then I'm going to swap over to the next line and move it around until I can get it to look the way I want. Okay, so you can see here, while I'm moving this anchor point to fix this line here, it's also altering the line down here. This is where the break anchor point tool comes in handy. If you don't want this part of the line to be impacted when you are moving the handle on this side, just press Alt, break the line, and now you can move it around without impacting this side of the line. I'm going to just go ahead and make the line work as I want it to be, and you can go ahead and do the same. I want to now alter this line. I want to add some line art variation to it. So I'm going to select the line, and you can do this using the selection tool. And I'm going to go to the stroke window. I'm going to go down to where it says profile, and I'm going to select the line variation style that I like. I tend to like this one right here. So I'll click it. You can't really see much because the size of the line is very small, so we'll just go to weight. You can go here, or you can go here in the appearance panel, it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to click up until I can get it to be a good size. I'm going to make it, let's make it, should I make it a 3 or a 4? Let's make it a 3. And I'm going to go back to the profile down here because I just want to click on this flip along button just to see what it looks like if I flip the way the line art look, and I actually prefer it flipped, so I'm going to leave it like that. So now all you need to do is add in the lines for your artwork and making sure that you break it wherever you want the line to end by pressing Ctrl and clicking on any part of your screen, and then add in the line art variation that you want. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to carry on adding in the lines. I'm going to end my line here, pressing Ctrl, clicking off onto the screen. I'm going to go to my direct selection tool so that I can alter the lines. Zoom in a little bit, why not? Okay, so this one here, I've added in an extra point that I don't need. I'm going to remove that. You can remove it just by going to the pen tool, right-clicking and pressing on the delete anchor button tool, or you can just press the minus key on your keyboard and then just click on the point and that will remove it. And then I'm going to go back to the direct selection tool and continue editing. Again, once I have the line art looking the way I want, I am going to select this by clicking on the selection tool, and we're going to alter the line again. So I'll take this up to 3, change the line art to the one I want, flip it just to see which one looks better, and again the flipped version looks better. And I'll continue doing what I'm doing with the rest of the lines, press P and go back to the line art. I'm going to put this into time lapse now so I can finish the main outline, and then I'll come back when I'm doing these little tiny detailed outlines. Now that I've come to the circle, I am not going to make that circle using points, although I could. I'm actually going to go and use not the rectangle tool. We'll right click on that if it's not selected on the one I'm looking for, and I'm going to go to the ellipse tool. In order to make a perfect circle, I'm going to press down on Shift and click and drag. And then just select it, drag it to the right place. I'm going to zoom in, Control+. I'm going to make this bigger to the size I need, but I'm going to press Shift before clicking on the point and dragging to keep it a perfect circle. Because if I don't do that, you'll see it will move about. And then I'm going to change the line weight to zoom out to see how it looks as a whole in order to select the correct line weight. I think that probably looks fine, a 2-point. And in case you were wondering why I didn't begin the line here, go all the way around the outside and then just connect it in the end, it's mainly because, as you'll see with this circle, if I add a variation in, it doesn't always look as nice. What I mean is that you won't be able to get all this variation that I'm adding in if you had connected the first line. And I'm going to go back into time lapse. With these lines back here, just because they are further back in the drawing and I want to add an element of perspective, I'm going to make this line thinner than 3 points, just because anything that moves into the background should become smaller and less prominent. The line art is now complete. I'm going to add in another layer by clicking on the plus button, and this one is going to be the first layer of colors. So I'll name this Colors 1, and I'm going to drag this layer underneath the line art because the line art needs to always be on top. I'm going to lock the line art layer because I don't want to mess with that anymore. Make sure you are on the colors layer. This time we're going to be using the pencil tool in order to outline the entire thing and get our base color in. The way I tend to color is we'll have one layer with all of the base colors in, and then I'll add another layer in, and this one will start to have the detailed coloring, the shadows and the highlights. So let's go to the pencils tool. That's this object right here. If we right click it, you can find the pencil tool here, or you can select N on your keyboard. Now I'm just going to click and drag it all the way around the image. I'm not trying to be perfect because what you'll see is that the pencil tool creates anchors, and we'll have to move those anchors around so that they fit the line art. And connect right at the end. Now you'll see that if I zoom in, the outline has been created. Just to make it easier to alter this, I'm going to first of all add a fill, and I think I'll go with brown. And I'm going to remove the stroke. So I'm going to click down until it's on 0, or I could have just clicked on this and removed it like that, but I always tend to take the long way for some reason. And now make sure you select your direct selection tool, and we're going to go around and fit this color layer onto the line art. Again, use exactly the same methods as before, and let's just put this into time lapse. And just remember that if you feel you need more anchor points, you can just go back to the pen tool and add that in. That's the outline for the hand done, although I will need to cut out this section here. The next thing I'm going to do is add in the colors for the circle, except I'm going to do this differently. I don't need to draw around this because this is just one object anyway. So all I'm going to do is go back to my line art layer, unlock that, and I'm going to click on it, Control C, go back onto the colors layer and Control V to paste it in. Just drag that back up here. I'm going to lock the line art layer again because I always manage to do something to the wrong layer. And I'm going to overlap it, fill it with the same color if I can find it. Yep, that's it. And I'm going to remove the stroke. Although in this case it didn't really make much of a difference. So as you can see, because I added this layer on top of the color before, where the layer underneath had overlapped over the circle, that's now covered. Actually, if I make it a different color, don't know why I made it a skin color in the first place, but let's make it a different color so you can see it more clearly. If I add this on top, it now covers what's underneath. So you've probably already figured this out, but there is a hierarchy within the layers. Anything that you add on later covers up whatever it is that is underneath it before. So now that we've sorted this out, let's try and sort out this gap right here. What I'm going to do is go back to the pen tool, and now I'm going to outline this. And I'm leaving the fill layer so I can see exactly where it covers. Now that I have the skin color and this little cutout here, I'm actually going to cut it out, and we're going to do this by using the Pathfinder down here. I'm just going to move this out here so you can see it. Let's put it up here. And you can see that there are different options for cutting out shapes. The one I'm going to use is this one right here. Well, at least he's hoping that's the right one. I'm going to select this little yellow section here, and I'm going to press Shift and select the skin color. And then I'm going to go up here to the minus front and click on it. And as you can see, it has now cut out that section. And clearly I need to do some rearranging. So I'm going to go down here make sure you are in the Properties panel or window and go to Arrange and Bring to Front, and that solves that issue. The final colours I want to add in are the nails, and because these are perfectly connected shapes, I can just copy and paste them once again. And here we have our base colours. Now we want to add in our shading. So in order to add the gradient in, I want to select the layer I want to add the gradient to. I'm going to start with a skin colour, then I'm going to go to the gradient window and click on it just to activate it. I'm going to then go here to where it says Edit Gradient, just because I like this little stick that comes up. It makes it so much easier to alter things. And on one end, you just hover over it to see. The end is this one. You can see that little circle rotate symbol come up, and I'm going to rotate it because on this image I want the shadow to be at the bottom. As you can see, by doing the gradient, it does remove the colour we had added on. So on this occasion, it wasn't necessary to do that, but I wanted to show you how to do the fill just in case it did become necessary. So here I'm going to change the colour, and I am going to pick, what am I going to pick? Well, first of all, I don't want it to be black and white, so I'm going to go to this box at the top right and select RGB because that's the colour mode I want. And from here, I can select the colour that will go at the bottom. This isn't too bad, actually. I'm going to click on the top circle here, and this time I'm going to select the mid-tone skin colour because I want to show you how to add in the highlights a little later on. So let's select this as the mid-tone colour. Okay, that took a while and I still don't have the skin colour I want, but I don't want this recording to go on too long. So let's just move on to the next stage. The last thing I want to show you when it comes to creating a gradient in this way is that you can change the location of the gradient or where the colours melt into the other by moving this icon here, left or right, or you can move it over here, up or down. Now when it comes to this circle, I want to add in a gradient in a different way. So let's go, and this time I'm going to add it in, let's do a radial gradient. Move it up or to the right side, this little icon, move this up until I get it to look the way I want, and that looks fine. I'm just going to leave the colours as they are because I do want to show you the next step. I will alter the colours right at the end as a time lapse, but let's just move on to the next stage. So now I want to add in another layer, and we'll press the plus icon and it will be, or I should double click here and rename it as Colors 2. Make sure that you lock the other layer to not accidentally draw in it, and this time Colors 2, make sure that it's on top of the Colors 1 layer. So now I'm going to go back to my pencil tool and I'm going to start adding highlights in. And I'll add in my highlight here. Again, I'm not drawing very carefully. And what I'll do is fill it, and let's fill it with a light colour like this, maybe. And we're going to go to opacity and reduce that. Reduce it to wherever you think is right. I'll just leave it at, let's leave it at 50%. And then I'm going to alter where the anchor points are, and I'll see you after the time lapse. Okay, we've added in this highlight, but as you can see down here, this highlight should have really extended all the way down here. So what I'm going to do is get the pencil tool and again draw in this highlight, but I'm going to overlap it with this and bring this all the way back down here and connect it, if I can see properly, with that right there. And then I'm going to select this and the highlight before, and now I'm going to click on the Shape Builder tool and I'm going to connect these two like that. And again, I have to add the color in, which is fine. Click off the Shape Builder tool and add the color in. And then again, I'm going to reduce the opacity to 50%. With the same method, you can continue adding layers and layers. You can add in highlights, you can add in more shadows, you can add in different color variations. But there's one more thing I want to show you before I complete this illustration in time-lapse, and that's changing the style or the effect of the layer. So what we're going to do is select the layer that I want to add a style to, and then I'm going to go into Effect, and on this occasion I want to go down to Blur and Gaussian Blur. And let's see, bring this down to the level I want it to be. And let's say this looks okay. Press OK. And you'll see that it adds a very nice little blend to it. Of course, the higher the value would have been, or the more to the right that I would have pushed the slider, the more blurred out it would have been. Typically with vector illustrations, the lines are kept quite harsh, but as you can see, just by adding effects in, you can add variation even into your vector illustrations, and that will help it look a little more realistic, I think. So what I'll do is I will finish off this illustration in time-lapse, but as for the tutorial, that's the end of it. I hope there were a lot of useful information in it, and I want to thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.